Hey everybody, Adam Savage in Los Angeles, and I'm standing in a very holy place because for the last 40 years in Hollywood and the rest of the world, if you needed a spacesuit, this is the guy you called. This is Chris Gilman. How are you, my friend?
Glad to have you here.
Dude, I'm having trouble keeping it together because there's just so many spaces. I just want to climb in and just live here, man.
I think our count is currently close to 300.
300.
That includes historic suits, and we're in the historic spacesuit aisle. And the science fiction spacesuit aisle is next door.
Okay, will you give me a walking tour of this magnificence?
Sure. Well, I know you're a huge fan of Apollo, so we have to start with Apollo here. Now, this is...
These feel like it's real Teflon coating.
It is. It's real Teflon fabric.
Amazing.
So now the real suits are made out of what they call beta glass, Teflon-coated beta glass, which is also shortened to beta cloth.
Right.
But it's actually fiberglass that has been coated with Teflon.
Okay.
It's real glass fibers.
Yeah.
The problem is glass fibers don't like to be bent at 360 degrees. They don't like to be bent in half like this.
Right.
So we don't do it out of the Teflon beta glass because these suits are only designed, as you know, to last long enough for one mission.
Sure.
Some of these we have are over 20 years old. This one is made out of a Teflon fabric, which has the same look as the beta glass, you just don't have the glass fiber.
Yeah.
And you might recognize this from First Man.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Ryan Gosling's dirty suit from First Man.
Lovely. Oh my God. All those fittings are metal. I'm just going blown away.
And then our neck rings. So we try to make our neck rings exactly like the real neck rings. The only difference is this gold button is normally a secondary lock. We don't use that, but you do have to pull it out. You can rotate it all the way open. Now in the real ones, there's a spring that would automatically knock it back to here. We make it like this so it can stay in the unlocked position. And there are 8 pins in here.
I'm sure the actors prefer that.
Yes. Well, somebody asked me once, they said, well, why do you spend so much money? I mean, this is going to be expensive. I said, yeah, they are expensive. I said, NASA, Airlock, and ILC Dover spent a huge amount of money making sure that these were flawless because astronauts are terrified their helmet might accidentally come off. And it actually did happen on an early Apollo test. They had a helmet pop off.
Oh, geez.
We do it because actors are terrified their helmet might not come off.
I connect with that. I totally feel them.
Yeah. So we try to do that. Now,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure of the answer. That will fit a real Apollo helmet.
Oh, yes.
So you could take real Apollo parts and chuck them in here.
We have.
Or here. Or here?
Well, they won't go in here. They won't go in here.
All right.
So these are a bayonet style. You'll see there's a screw in here.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
But we are going to be making these real just because I can.
Because you're a geek. I love it.
And we are making these real as well. And I can show you some of those. We have some of these.
Please. Oh, my goodness.
So then his clean suit. And then, so as you know, they had the A7L. It was Apollo, the 7th version of the suit, and IL for ILC Dover. So the A6L originally had a blue neck ring, and they kept the blue neck ring for the A7L.
Right.
And we have a blue neck ring here. The reason we have the blue neck ring is on the early missions, the neck ring was blue.
Right.
So this is Colin's suit. Now, really, if it's Colin's suit, if it was for the portrait, it would have a blue neck ring on it. But if it was for the actual mission, it would have had a red outer ring, but a blue inner ring.
Oh, my God.
Because they changed things.
Amazing.
The other thing that's fun,
Yeah.
notice this is a single sleeve.
Yeah.
Whereas you notice this sleeve is in 2 parts.
Yeah.
These have arm bearings in them because otherwise you'd never be able to move your arms under pressure. Why doesn't the command module pilot have arm bearings?
Because he
doesn't need it.
Pressure's only an emergency.
Right, but the other reason is that the cabin wasn't wide enough for 3 guys with arm bearings. The arm bearings crashed. So they put the command module pilot in the middle.
They were like, Michael, you got to go. Oh my God, all liquid cooling garments.
LCVG, liquid cooling ventilation garment. These are replicas.
Yeah.
We have a real one, and so we try to use artifacts whenever we can.
Sure.
The very first movie we did spacesuits for was a Family Channel movie about Apollo 11. And Apollo 13 had just come out. Now, Apollo 13 was done by SpaceWorks, which was the profit arm or the manufacturing company for the Kansas Cosmosphere, which is an incredible museum. Well, they got into trouble because they used real artifacts.
Oh.
there were a number of real things. In fact, when I saw the Apollo command module, I realized that the launch couches were real.
Wow.
And they tried to tell me, oh no, our replicas are so good. I said, look, my dad was in the aerospace business. You don't build stuff out of Inconel, high temperatures.
You don't have to.
You don't have to, right? Well, when I saw that some of the suits had real components, I vowed that I wanted to make our components so realistic that there would never, ever be a need to use a historic artifact.
Right.
And so we try not to use historic artifacts. And if we ever do, it requires one of our technicians on set. And a lot of our suits require technicians because they're so complex.
Yeah, you can't just send this out and someone, there's too much going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Mercury?
Mercury, yeah.
Now, I had a brilliant machinist working for us, and he made me
the little one
working Mercury neck rings. And they are paper thin, and he was able to use my old garbage lathe, and he was just a genius.
That's crazy. My first 2 Mercury suits are rotten on the... I found a better fabric that I love, and I had one built out of that, and I hope it lasts. Well, it's a much tighter, it's not vinyl as the coating. It's aluminized, but it's not vinyl.
The very first one we did for Earth to the Moon.
Yeah.
So we weren't supposed to do all of the spacesuits for Earth to the Moon.
Yeah.
We originally said, look, we want to do them all. And then we found out that there was some shenanigans going on. And eventually we did them all, except for the Mercury suit.
Yeah.
And then we found out that Cosmosphere was going to rent them a real Mercury suit that had been on a mannequin, and the inner bladder had welded itself to the mannequin and they couldn't get it off. So we had to make one. So we made one. That suit lasted for years, and it was made out of the same vinylized material. I no idea what the difference was, but it lasted forever until Billy Bob Thornton was in the pool for a week.
Astronaut farmer.
Yeah. And then it came back and it started to separate.
Oh, man.
Aces suits. So,
I know these ones really well.
These are made out of the real fabric. This is a real Nomex.
Orange Nomex, yeah.
And so these actually, the disconnect here actually functions. Neck rings work like the real neck rings. Glow sticks. Now, fun story about this. We always use artifacts.
Yeah.
And we've also had people ask, why do you go to such levels of detail?
Yeah.
I said, well, I'll give you an example. We're doing Space Cowboys.
Yeah.
We got Clint Eastwood, Donald Sutherland, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
All these,
they know
icons, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting in the shuttle cockpit filming.
Yeah.
And there's a shuttle astronaut telling them this is what we do on launch.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, yeah, so in the pocket there, you would normally have, I said, hold on.
And you gave him the gloves?
No. Cool suit connector.
Oh, yes.
And he goes, exactly.
Amazing.
Right? He comes up to me afterwards and he goes, well, these suits, first off, they look exactly real.
Yeah,
He goes, but that's in a pocket. Why do you do that? I said, right for that moment, just then.
Exactly.
Plus, I won an Academy Award for the development of a cool suit. So we use cool suits in ours, so why not have the cool suits actually work? Let's step across the hall.
Oh, look at the EMUs.
So our EMUs, the real EMU has 19,000 parts. You have to think of it as a human-shaped spacecraft.
Right, anthropomorphic spaceship.
Yeah. So a lot of people like to do the visors with silver nitrate. Mm-hmm. And silver nitrate's an old process been used for filming, for making
that's like making a mirror.
Planes. Right.
Yeah.
The problem is it oxidizes over time, and it will start to get spots, or it'll start to turn gray. So these are 24 karat gold.
Who do you have to sputter that?
Well, I actually had a great deal of difficulty. When we did Ad Astra, the lab that normally does our visors was moving, so all their equipment was disassembled. So we had another company that said, oh, yeah, we can do it. The problem is they're metallized on the inside, so you have to sweep, because when you put it in a perfect vacuum, the reason the metal stays molten is there absolutely nothing in there to absorb temperature.
Right.
So it doesn't conduct temperature because it's void of anything, but it's like a flashlight beam. If it doesn't hit it directly, it won't go on. So we get these visors back, they look pretty good until we put them in a helmet, put them on, you can't see out of them.
Oh.
Because the metallizing on the side was really, really light, and the metallizing in the front, and
so
it allowed
heavy.
enough light to come in that it was just a big funhouse mirror.
Oh my God.
So luckily we have a company that does this, and we've now been doing these for NASA because they lost the company.
I was wondering. I mean, amazing. That's
so there's
so
we have a bump visor. Now normally the bump visor would not move up
Right.
It's held down by a couple of clips because we're dealing with actors.
Yeah.
We also don't put the pressure bubble in. Also, people don't realize that there would be
there's
a pressure bubble
under all of that.
And this is just a bump shield.
And a lot of times now the directors are shooting it twice, once with visor, once without, so they can replace it digitally if they want to.
Exactly. And we have helmets with cutout visors.
Right.
They ask with these all the time, can you take the visors out? Yes, we can.
I'm seeing something I never thought that would be replicated, but am I looking at NBL suits here?
You are.
These are the Buoyancy Lab pool suits, because these are the weights for simulating the...
And we just finished these. Ended up 3D printing the lights.
I see all the 3D printing. That's wonderful.
And we also did the backpacks as NBL
nice.
versions.
Right.
And the safers as NBL versions.
Oh, man.
And then the MMP, the mount that normally would mount the suit. Now you see on ours, we actually use the mounts to hold the suit.
Oh, that's awesome. Of course.
On these, because they're NBL versions, they would really have them.
Yeah.
But we were trying to keep them light and cheaper. So I laser engraved them to just be a photograph.
Amazing.
Then for All Mankind, we took our Mark III suits, which is a lot of the technology of these hard suits was developed during the Apollo program for the long duration missions.
Right.
And then it was all canceled. But people think, with this big bulky suit. Well, when you pressurize a suit, it gets hard as a basketball.
Right.
And it's going to go round.
Literally,
if I made a cube out of fabric, it's going to turn into a ball with nubs.
Yeah.
So if you make a rigid torso, you can control the shape.
Yeah.
You can make it the shape you want it to be. So you actually have far more mobility in these rigid suits than you do in the all soft suits.
Wow.
The downside is the weight, and they don't compact us down as much.
Right. They don't store as well.
Well, then we can go back across the aisle.
Oh, yeah, Sokols.
To Sokol suits. So these are from Big Bang Theory.
Amazing. Wallowitz. And Massimino was in one of those.
And Massimino was in one of these. Might even be one of these.
Incredible.
And then the Penguin suits. So these were used on Mirror as an isometric suit to try to reduce bone loss.
Oh, wow.
And this was patterned off a real one. Then we have...
Those Orlon covers?
Alexei Leonov, copy of a Leonov's spacewalk suit.
Oh, my God.
Which was patterned off his real training suit.
Dude. Oh, my gosh. So gorgeous.
And then we have a copy of Gagarin's suit. That was also patterned off his training suit.
Oh.
So you'll see these. This is a fun thing. You see these, and you'll see them on the Aces suits.
Yeah.
Where
right. Yeah. Down here, there's
the ring.
The scrunchie. That's for hanging your gloves on, isn't it?
Okay. And I, for the longest time, had no idea. And I was asking one of the astronauts, he goes, well, when you get 0G, you got to put your gloves somewhere. And they go in that.
Incredible. What's the different color of Aces here? Are these just faded or for a different job?
No. So these are done for Superman Returns. We had Richard Branson and his son in these.
Amazing.
So the designer didn't want the bright orange. They wanted something. And if you watch the film, they actually read orange.
Yeah, I was
really hard to tell that they're a salmon color.
Anything different. Yeah. Oh, look at these black rings. That's gorgeous.
Even these, we teched down a little bit. So in the film, teching is where you're going to over dye a brighter color to kind of knock it down so it doesn't flare in camera.
I didn't know that term.
Yeah, so they normally do it with white shirts.
Sure.
Well, we tech these down, and they always want to know about teching down these.
Yeah.
And no, it's Teflon.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. No, it's what it is.
Yeah. And then mechanical counter pressure suits. That happens to be a real Navy one. These are Russian copies. And for Bridge of Spies, we made a complete one of these with the outer suit, with the helmet, everything. And it was a lot of work to make this.
I was going to say.
And you never saw it in the film because he never took the cover later off.
Oh, my God.
And then we're in helmet land.
Look at this.
So years ago, we started to make our own pressure bubbles because these are so hard to get.
Is this a real one?
That's a real one.
Oh, look at the seam.
I know. So it has been polished out.
Okay, so that's what they did do, a polish.
They did. Now,
polycarbonate.
It's polycarbonate, and you can polish it out pretty well.
Okay.
My understanding, because we had to make these, and they are a real pain to make.
Oh, I know Ryan Nagata has told me endless stories of his difficulties.
And his are really good.
I'm looking at all these beautiful helmets. This is the one I'm curious about because this is Gagarin.
Yeah.
This is the thing I did not realize is that Gagarin didn't actually. Oh, wait, it is. I had heard that Gagarin didn't actually wear a helmet, but it was a hard shell over a soft pull-down visor.
No, this was I used to have a real one.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, I had to get rid of it, but I even had Valentina Tereskova sign it. Unfortunately, I never got to mold it. This is pretty close.
This is so beautiful.
But it's sealed to the suit. Now, we make a zipper so you can attach it, detach it. But the real one is part of the suit.
Right.
And have you ever seen how you get into a Russian suit?
It's through the chest,
It's
right?
a bag.
It's so brilliant.
I know.
It's so simple. Go describe it for the
So,
yeah.
So a company called Excar Aerospace was building a space plane called the Lynx.
Yeah.
And they needed a pressure suit. And somehow I had gotten the reputation of being able to build real suits. I had done a few jobs prior to that, real hardware. Well, when we first did it, I had been described to me how you get into these suits. And I thought, no way. No, it's basically the whole suit opening is this big in the front of the suit, like a big hefty trash bag. Like a big trash bag sticking out.
And you climb through that.
You climb through it, get into the suit, and there's a cable hold down. Now, the reason that getting in and out of suits is so difficult is because the distance, what they call the rise, from the crotch to the shoulders, has to be finite. It cannot get bigger. Otherwise when you pressurize the suit, the helmet's here, right? That's the reason for the hold down. Is so when you're sitting, you can pull the helmet down, and then when you stand up, you can let it out a little bit.
What I love about the hold down is it's extant on the Wiley Post's suit.
Yeah.
Right? Like he was solving that problem in the 20s.
Exactly.
And we're still dealing with it because we still need to adjust that.
It's the way the body works.
Amazing.
So getting in and out of a suit, having to figure out a way to make it get in and out is tough. Well, anyways, in these, there's a hold down that once you climb into it, there's a cable that you clip to it and it locks everything down. When I first heard this, that it's a bag you tie up, at first I'm thinking,
no.
What? Yeah. But then I thought, how many party balloons are tied every year?
Right.
And they don't leak.
Right.
Of course. This is brilliant.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing, it blew my mind again with its simplicity. And also, I mean, you know, the Russians were doing rear entry suits.
Yeah.
Forever.
And we have one of our rear entry suits here. So this is the actual, there's a copy of the actual Mark III. These are done for deep impact. They've been used in Space Force, Stargate. I've been using tons of stuff. And they're a rear entry suit. You'll notice there's a big bearing here.
Yeah.
There's a bearing here.
Oh, man.
And this is called a rolling convolute. This was invented by a guy named Bill Elkins for Litton Industries. Originally for a vacuum chamber, not as a spacesuit.
Oh.
They thought it would be easier to assemble vacuum tubes with a technician actually in a vacuum.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So they needed a suit that the guy could wear to assemble vacuum tubes.
Oh, that's...
And then when the need for a spacesuit came up, they went, here we are.
Amazing.
And then the lower cannons, the lower legs, are all bearings.
Did you build all these bearings?
Well, no, they're Kadon thin race bearings, and Kadon makes high precision bearings.
There's some pricey bearing stuff.
There's about $5,000 or $6,000 worth of bearings.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So rear entry. So we flip it open. Oops, helps if I open it. So we have a latch here. This is a copy of the real latch. Pull it out. Now in the real one, you squeeze these and pull it out and unlock. We spin it around. And then,
oh, yeah.
Now, the inside of our suits are not nearly as slick looking as the real ones, but I did manage to make 4 training suits for NASA for their rover.
Amazing. Ooh. Man manipulate?
Absolutely. For a BBC show that was originally called Walking with Spacemen, they wanted to do a suit to go to every planet.
Oh, okay.
They want to go to Venus.
Oh, forget about it.
The surface pressure of Venus is like 1,400 pounds per square inch. So we
and 600 degrees Celsius, right?
So we made a deep dive looking suit.
I love it, like a newt suit almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So this was a fun project.
Oh my God, look at all these.
And then we have what we call our B grade suits. So these are all A grade, meaning they're the finest detail. We try to use real materials whenever we can. I mean, they're by no means a real space suit.
Yeah, understood.
In fact, Joe Cosmo came to the shop one day from the Advanced Suit Lab.
Yeah.
Because one of the jobs I did was redesign the upper torso of the shuttle suit to fit women for a 5th percentile suit, what they call. And Joe and some of the NASA team would come out for a visit. And he walks in to our old shop, and there are 9 Mark III suits all laid out. And this was his baby. This was his pet project. And he goes, "Oh my God." And I said, "Well, Joe, you could wear all 9 of these, one on top of the other, and they wouldn't hold any pressure whatsoever." You got the real thing.
You need duct tape.
So these are our B-grade suits, and these are a little less detail, lighter, sometimes plastic pieces instead of metal pieces. And we even did a B-grade NBL suit.
Yep. These are B-grade. They look amazing.
And then we have communication caps.
Oh, Snoopy's.
So kind of a fun thing. So you'll see.
That looks authentic.
It is. So you see this variegated pattern.
Yeah, that's.
All right. So the idea was that the material fades, but it doesn't actually. It might fade, but the variegated pattern actually comes about. And we researched this when we did Earth to the Moon. A friend of mine, Dennis, who you meet, he has a real Snoopy cap.
Yeah.
And his has been in storage, and it's got this variegated pattern. Well, what I realized is that how they make Teflon yarn is they take an organic fiber, run it through a Teflon bath,
right,
and then burn out the organic fiber, and it makes the Teflon brown color.
Right.
Well, they didn't have a way to make that brown come out exactly the same every time. So when that yarn gets woven into cloth, you get this variegated pattern. Now, this is fun. So for Unilever, the company that does Axe body spray, they were doing a promotion, and they needed a bunch of spacesuits. We built 80 spacesuits that all compacted down and could ship around the world. And for the RCU, we cast it in plastic.
Yeah.
This is not fabric on that. That's just cast plastic.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. That's really funny.
It did yellow, of course, over time.
Yeah.
But that way we could make an inexpensive RCU that looked really real.
Right. This saves hours. Chris, I could spend all day here, and thank goodness I am spending all day here. There are going to be more videos from inside. This is just a general intro. Dude, this is like, thank you.
And we haven't even gotten to the sci-fi.
No, I know. Thank you, man. This is so inspiring.